Hi there, y'all. This is David, and I've been playing RPGs for quite a bit of time since the 1980s, and in my time, I've played some really freaking good games and some really freaking bad games. And today, I do want to talk about 7 god-awful games that I have played, so you don't have to. And I definitely do think that that's worth a sub, as I'm trying my hardest to level up this year. With your help, your like, and your sub, I just know that I can get there. Now, over in Japan, they have a term for this, and it's called kusoge, which literally translates into shitty game. We don't really have that term here, but that term definitely applies to these. First up at number 7, we have Secret of the Stars, released for the SNES. I think that the real secret here is how a sports game developer thought that they would be good at making a traditional turn-based RPG. Well, newsflash, they weren't. This little steaming pile came out in 1995, which coincidentally is the same year that Chrono Trigger came out. So honestly, if you're going to look at the two of them and then think about which one you want for your birthday or Christmas or something, no one is picking Secret of the Stars. It's kind of a shame though, because the plot is actually somewhat interesting, but it's marred by an absolutely atrocious translation. Everything's in caps lock, and you don't fight a Kraken, you fight a Clarkin. And the bad guy? He's not a homunculus, he's Homnicruise. But who could forget that other bad guy? Aptly named Bad Bad. I'm not kidding you. The plot makes no sense, and the one interesting aspect of the game is the Aquatillion and Castera parties, but that's barely utilized at all because you play as the Aquatillions for 99% of the game. Which leaves you thinking, what's the point? And why are there 11 Castera and only 5 Aquatillions whenever you never have to use them? Number 6, the Grand Stream Saga, released for the PlayStation 1. This game pisses me off, and what really just gets me about it the most is that it's the culmination of the Heaven and Earth quadrilogy, and the first 3 games were, absolutely fantastic over on the SNES with the absolutely gorgeous graphics. Then this shit stain came along. Like the other games in the series, it's an action RPG, but unlike the other games, it has no soul whatsoever. The graphics are atrociously ugly. I mean, no one even has eyeballs or anything. But that's not the worst, because it's just not fun. Back on the SNES, whenever you encountered an enemy, you just kind of fought them right then and there. But not here. You kind of transition into another battle screen, where you still have to fight them, but it just slows everything down exponentially, and because of that, you just kind of end up running through the dungeons as quickly as possible to get from point A to point B. But here's the real kicker, like a lot of these kusoge games. There's just an easy way to break it, because if you know where to look, you can get the most powerful sword in the entire game in the first 5 minutes. It's absolutely ridiculous. Number 5, Tracia, released for the Sega Genesis. At first glance, you might think this is a good game, and it's stuck on the Sega Genesis, which did have a dearth of RPGs, so if you were a kid, you probably encountered this thinking that it might be something like Phantasy Star, and then you wanted to, go and try it out just to, play the other RPGs, but you'd be wrong. Personally, I didn't have a Genesis, and I ended up playing this through the power of emulation where I was in college, and the only way that I slogged through it was with a ton of maps over on Game FAQs and a lot of fast forward, because everything here seems to go in slow motion, from the ridiculously tedious battles, to those long loading times, to those item limitations, and the buying and selling that just takes forever, to the absolutely massive maps filled with, nothing but dead ends and mazes. This is an exercise in tedium. Oh, well, what about the story though? Well, you'd better read the instruction manual because it does a better job telling the story than the game does. Number 4, Chaos Wars, released for the PS2. We've really started to hit the cream of the crap here, and if you think about it, it's been terrible already, but you ain't seen nothing yet, kiddos. Here, at least they got the name right. I mean, the game is certainly chaotic, and it's quite legendary, but for all the wrong reasons. Topping all that off is probably the voice acting, and that's because the localizers didn't feel like actually hiring, real voice actors. So instead, they got their family and friends to do it, and the rest is history. But that's not the only thing that they cheaped out on. The translation is so completely nonsensical that even basic things like character names are mistranslated. And that's a pretty big deal, considering that this game's selling point is that it's a mishmash of characters from all sorts of different franchises coming together to fight. Like, who's Uru? Isn't that Yuri from Shadow Hearts? Give me a break. One of the biggest slaps in the face, though, is that you're going to be getting like 1 million party members here, but you're never going to want to use them because you can only fight with 5 people in your party. But that really sucks, because the game will literally force you to use somebody who's like 20 levels behind the others. Number 3, Loop 8 Summer of the Gods, released for the PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and PC. Gosh, I hated this game so much. There are literally no redeeming qualities to this hunk of junk. And to think, I was actually excited about this one when it was first announced. There was pedigree and names behind it, including the teams that worked on Lunar and Grandia. Then they said that they wanted to make it feel as if you're like inside of an anime, and I thought, oh, that could be kind of interesting too. But nothing prepared me for just how god-awful it was before I went to play it. Do y'all remember that old movie Groundhog Day, where Billy Crystal just keeps on like waking up on the same day over and over and over again? Well, that's what it's like to play this game. It's absolutely infuriating and maddening. All you do is sit around and talk to the same people over and over and over again, and loop through the same boring screens over and over and over again until you randomly, and I do mean randomly, encounter some different anomaly that you have to like go take care of, just so that you can turn around and then do the same thing over and over and over again until you throw this shit out the window. Number 2, Brandish, released for the SNES. I want to make something very crystal clear here. Normally, whenever I feature a game on these lists like the other previous games that I've featured, I edit and I cut a whole lot of different pieces together in order to give you like a total feel of what the game is all about. I am not going to do this here though, because do you see how the game is kind of like jumping around? That's normal. That's the way that the game actually is. It is so completely disorientating that it makes it unplayable to me. Like, what were they thinking? I remember reading with this abomination back in Nintendo Power, and it looked really fun in a magazine, kind of like Soul Blazer or something. So I went and I rented it from Video Wonderland, and I played it for maybe like 10 minutes before I was like, what is going on here? And I kept resetting it, thinking that there was like something wrong with the game, but no, it's supposed to be like this. And back then, we got one rental game per weekend, and it was a 45-minute drive into town in order to go to the rental shop. So this janky-ass mess was my weekend fun. To say that I was pissed was an understatement. I would rather have sat there and studied for school or something than to deal with this. And number 1, The Legend of Alandar, released for the PS2. This game is so cheap. I mean, look at it. It's games like this that made me hate 3D gaming back in the early PlayStation games. I mean, the 2D RPGs were just gorgeous on the SNES. Then they got all ugly as hell on the PS1, and they really didn't get all that much prettier on the PS2 until very late in that system's life cycle. And seriously, I grew up on the NES and the Game Boy. I am not one to get hung up on graphics, but this is awful. There was a time in my gaming career where I felt like I had to go through and buy just like every single RPG ever released in America. And while this idea sounded fun in theory, in practice, all it did was make me get some incredibly bad purchases. I think that I picked this up from Electronics Boutique in a bargain bin out on the sidewalk for like $3, and it's not even worth that. The entire game consists of nothing but side quests and like collect-a-thons. Basically, all you do is like run around finding random ass shit just strewn about the world and beating up whatever gets in your way until you randomly stumble across something that might constitute a plot. And then there's the combat. I mean, like, if you don't know how to program a game for the PS2, then like, go make a puzzle game or Tetris or something. Don't make whatever this shit is. So that's it for the 7 worst RPGs ever made that released here in America, the American Kusoge. Yeah, there's a lot of terrible ones, but I want to know from you, what terrible Kusoge have you played in your time? We're not looking at the Japanese games here, just the American games. Let me know in the comments because I do want to hear from you. And if you like this video, here's another video that I really do think that you'll enjoy, so please be sure to check that one out. And as always, please do like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good day.